Thank you for watching. Please can you help us out by smashing the like button? We do post regularly and your support matters. If you would like to hear more, please do subscribe. Derinkuyu. In the 1960s, a Turkish man was renovating his house when he made one of the most amazing archaeological discoveries in history. As he knocked down a wall in his basement, it opened into a large cavern, and from there into an 18-story deep underground city we now know as Derinkuyu. This underground city is an ancient multi-level underground city in the Derinkuyu district in Nevşehir province, Turkey. The volcanic rock landscape of Turkey's Cappadocia region is pockmarked with several different underground cities, but perhaps none is as vast or as impressive as Derinkuyu. This labyrinthine complex dates to around the 8th century BC and was most likely built to serve as a refuge during periods of war and invasion. Its 18-story interior was a self-contained safe house that included ventilation shafts, wells, kitchens, schoolrooms, oil presses, a bathhouse, a winery and living space for some 20,000 people. When under attack, each level of the city could be sealed off behind monolithic stone doors. Historians believe that the Hittites or the Phrygians were among the city's earliest builders, but it was later occupied and expanded by various other groups including Byzantine-era Christians, who left behind a collection of underground frescoes and chapels. The first theory is that the Hittites were believed to have used the tunnels to hide from Phrygian raids. Those who subscribe to this theory point to the historic account of the Phrygian destruction of Hittite city Hattusa and the fact that various Hittite artifacts were found in the tunnels. So who were the Hittites? The Hittites were an Anatolian people who played a major role in the establishment of three significant kingdoms from around 1750 BC and eventually an empire based in Hattusa, north-central Anatolia around 1650 BC. This empire would reach its zenith in the mid-14th century. Afterwards a slow decline would see it all but extinguished by the 12th century BC. Continuing with the theories about who made the Derinkuyu. An alternative suggestion has the Phrygians first building the tunnels later, between the 8th and 7th centuries BCE. They explain the discovered Hittite artifacts as being remnants from the spoils of war. This theory is reinforced by reputation because the Phrygian architects are considered by archaeologists to be among the finest of the Iron Age and known to have engaged in complex construction projects. Because the Phrygians are known to have possessed the necessary skills and inhabited the region for a long time, they are often credited with first creating the underground city at Derinkuyu. A less popular theory is that the underground city was the work of the Persian Empire. The great and mythical Persian king Yima, who created palaces underground to house flocks, herds, and men, was included in the text of the Vendidad. But this is weak evidence and the theory has struggled to gain traction among historians. The oldest texts to speak of the underground cities of Cappadocia was by Xenophon in Anabasis. He mentions the Anatolian people living underground in excavated homes large enough for entire families, their food, and animals. Because the city was carved from naturally formed rock, traditional archaeological methods of dating the underground city would fail to properly discern its creation, so we will never really know when the tunnels were created. For now, all we can do is marvel at the magnificence of Derinkuyu, the engineering needed to construct and the hardships the workers would have endured. The underground city of Kaymakli. Kaymakli is contained within the citadel of Kaymakli in the central Anatolia region of Turkey. First opened to tourists in 1964, the village is about 19 kilometers from Nevşehir, on the Nevşehir-Niğde road. The ancient name was Enagub. Like Derinkuyu, archaeologists believe the caves may have first been built in the soft volcanic rock by the Phrygians, the 8th to 7th centuries BC. The city was greatly expanded and deepened during the Byzantine era, when it was used for protection from raids during the 4 centuries of Arab-Byzantine wars between 780 to 1180. The city was eventually connected with Derinkuyu through miles of tunnels, and they continued to be used by the Christian inhabitants as protection from the Mongolian incursions of Timur in the 14th century. After the region fell to the Seljuk Turks of Persia, the local inhabitants hid in the cities from the Turkish Muslim rulers, and as late as the 20th century the inhabitants, now called Rum by their Ottoman Turkish rulers, were still using the underground cities to escape periodic waves of Ottoman persecution. After the massacres at Adana, a great part of the population at Akso took refuge in these underground chambers. The tunnels were finally only abandoned in 1923 after the population exchange between Greece and Turkey, which saw the Rum leave the area. The houses in the village are constructed around the nearly 100 tunnels of the underground city. The tunnels are still used today as storage areas, stables, and cellars. The underground city at Kaymakli differs from Derinkuyu in terms of its structure and layout. The tunnels are lower, narrower, and more steeply inclined. Of the 4 floors open to tourists, each space is organized around ventilation shafts. This makes the design of each room or open space dependent on the availability of ventilation. A stable is located on the first floor. To its left is a passage with a millstone door. The door leads into a church. To the right of the stables are rooms, possibly living spaces. Located on the second floor is a church with 2 apses. Located in front of the apses is a baptismal font, and on the sides along the walls are seating platforms. Names of people contained in graves here coincide with those located next to the church, which supports the idea that these graves belonged to religious people. The church level also contains some living spaces. The third floor contains the most important areas of the underground compound: storage places, wine or oil presses, and kitchens. The level also contains a remarkable block of andesite with relief textures. Recently it was shown that this stone was used for cold-forming copper. The large area reserved for storage in such a limited area appears to indicate the need to support a large population underground. Currently only a fraction of the complex is open to the public, and due to safety concerns will remain that way for the foreseeable future. These tunnels are both linked by one thing: a desperate need to survive. They were built with safety in mind and to hide from their enemies. The length that ancient man would go to survive is simply astounding. But it wasn't just about surviving. If you consider the level of detail they went into, this was about thriving, and they did it very well. Dark Histories believes that these are the discoveries that drive our knowledge of history forward. From the perspective of learning something, isn't it time that we tried to mimic our ancient brothers and we put some effort into surviving and hopefully thriving? We must dig the city in our hearts and minds, in a hope of a better day.